r/AskReddit by Reddify. Redditors whose marriage lasted less than a year. What went wrong? This one's kind of ducked up. Happened to a friend. We were deployed to Okinawa. My friend married his girl prior to deployment. He found out mid-deployment that she cheated on him. But the way he found out was kind of messed up. He checked his FB one day and saw a message from some dude he didn't know. The guy straight up told him that he slept with his wife. She didn't say she was married, and when he checked her FB he saw she was married to my friend. He felt guilty and had to message him. My friend wasted no time and divorced her in Oki. I'm not sure if that was possible. I just remember him doing some kind of legal work the following day. Good on the guy for telling him. Though. Some would just want to avoid the situation and let further harm be done. I'm a girl, but I kinda was in that situation. Not within a marriage, because we're all pretty much still teens, or in our early 20s. Slept with a guy who was doing a year abroad. He was from Spain, a few times. All good fun. He told me he was single, and not looking for something romantic right now. Suddenly a friend of his met that guy at a party, told me that the guy had a pretty much long-term girlfriend back home. I was pissed to say the least. Told him to duck off, and never had contact with him again. I wish I could have told his girlfriend. But I don't know her name. Don't have his Facebook, and don't even speak Spanish. I hope she finds out somehow though. Because I'm sure as hell I likely wasn't the only other girl he slept with. Some people. Man. Long story short. Cancer. Dated for a few years, and decided to move in together with her roommates. The same year we did that. She gets diagnosed with ovarian cancer, which is why I'm very angry at the attitudes doctors have when it comes to women. If they allowed her to get her tubes tied, like she wanted years ago, they might have found it at an earlier stage. But there's no good symptoms or signs of early stage ovarian cancer. We were going to get married this summer, but our oncologist said to move it up. So we got married this past September. She died in December. Thanks for sharing, and sorry for your loss. My cousin was married for 18 hours. Or something ridiculous like that. To hear her tell it. There was a really apocalyptic argument on their wedding night over where they went from there. The moral of the story appears to be that before you get married, you and your spouse should have roughly compatible ideas of what you're looking for out of a marriage, how many kids, when to have them, where you live, whether you both work, money issues, etc. That's not stuff that just works itself out magically over time. Edit. Why the duck does this have over 7,000 karma over where they went from there. I pictured them driving in the car after their wedding ceremony wondering where to go next and then breaking up lol. I know someone that basically had that happen. As they were driving home from the wedding, they had lived together for 2 years. She burst into tears and said she had never wanted to get married. He drove her to her parents' house and they had the marriage annulled. Husband decided to start an affair within 3 months of marriage. Found about 6 months after. Still maintains there was nothing wrong. Just thought it would have been over before I found out. Oh, and our baby was only 6 months old. What a catch of a man. Started divorce proceedings after waiting the year minimum. What is a year minimum? To add on to what other commenters said, there can be a year requirement of separation before you can be legally divorced. In my parents' case, they had to live apart for an entire year and testify under oath that they had not spent a single night under the same roof in that year period. Apparently in Maryland, that's the rule, and if they had spent a single night in the same house, the year waiting period would have had to start over. Such stupid hit. They were allowed to get married too young. Why weren't they allowed to divorce when they were old enough to realize it was time to move on? Obviously I'm still salty about my parents' divorce. Mine lasted just a little over a year, but close enough. Married my girlfriend of 4 years right before getting deployed. She didn't have anything to keep herself busy while I was gone. Job, hobby, etc. Ended up getting into drugs while I was gone. Then I got her pregnant during my 2-week leave in the middle of the deployment. She felt so trapped that she had talked me into agreeing to give our child up for adoption once she was born. I was so blindly in love with her that I would have agreed to darn near anything she suggested. She ended up leaving me a week after our daughter was born and cancelling the adoption, taking her back from the adopting parents. Long story cut short, she got back into drugs, pretty sure she wasn't on them, while pregnant with my daughter. Had 2 more kids with whoever was her dealer at the time. And CPS ended up stepping in, which gave me full custody of my daughter. Not a day goes by when I look at my daughter and wonder what the duck I was thinking. And I'm so glad to have this wonderful, crazy, little girl in my life. Edit. Thanks everyone for the replies. I normally only check Reddit on my phone, and the app is terrible about showing that you have replies. I'm sorry if I missed responding to your question. I feel for you and your daughter, and I'm glad you two have each other. She started feeling trapped, as in, my expectation of monogamy was too much. So she discovered polyamory. Decided she wanted to be polyamorous with her boss, and that it was worth opening the marriage no matter what. She was pretty surprised when I divorced her. She was using poly as an excuse to throw responsibility back on you for not being open-minded or supportive enough. Convenient cover for what used to be called cheating, promiscuity, or being a ducking whore. There's some evidence she may actually be poly, and I'm 96% sure she didn't physically cheat on me. Emotionally, yes. I think she put off examining her feelings about monogamy, me, and not knowing how to handle attraction to other guys till after the wedding. When it all came crashing down, she's kind of a twat wiffle, but not malicious. Another abuse story. The final straw was when he held me down after 6 weeks of marriage and nully aped me, telling me over and over, you can't ape your wife. Took another month to figure out how to leave and put my plan in motion. Moved 400 miles away, started over, then believed him when he said he went to detox and recovery and gave him one more chance. Less than 2 weeks later, I had a gun put to my head, an ashtray thrown across the room at my face, and security had to remove him from my job twice. Had to get the police involved to get him out of my rent house, then disappeared again. Safe now. Been 21 years since then, and am now married to the love of my life. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thank you all for the love and support, and the gold. Kind stranger. I will answer a few of the recurring questions here. 1. I was 17 when we met, and incredibly naive. He said he was 25. We met in college, in a psychology class of all things. We dated for 5 months, and married for weeks after I turned 18. I found out he was actually 32 about 6 weeks before the wedding. But he explained that away with, I was afraid you wouldn't go out with me if you knew my age. And you're so beautiful. I bought it hook, line and sinker. 2. He was never perfect, lol. He preyed on my insecurities and naivety. I was book smart, but had no common sense. He did hit me once before the wedding, after the invitations were sent out. Of course. He immediately apologized and told me it would never happen again. He was just stressed because of the wedding. Ha. 3. I couldn't call the cops or ambulance after the incident because he took the phones and locked them in a drawer. When I did go to the police, it was my word against his, and there was nothing I could do. 4. A helpful relative gave him my phone number after he supposedly got out of detox/rehab. He was a smooth talker and had a lot of my family convinced that he had changed. There was more second chance talk from some of my family than from him. I had already begun divorce proceedings, but put them on hold when he came to live with me. We were only together another 5 weeks before I was gone again. No matter what bad decisions I made, I never deserved any of it. And no other human being does either. Duck that guy with a pineapple. Edit. Rip and barks. Sideways. Nothing really went wrong. Nothing really went at all. We had been dating for 7 years, so we thought it was a safe bet. Realized a year into our marriage that we were better as separate people. And it ducking sucked. There were a ton of tears. A whole lot of begging not to let it end. A whole bunch of trying new things, living separately, splitting money, etc. so that we could be apart together, but it just didn't work. We were just live-in friends when it came down to it. And I think, too, that if we hadn't gotten married, we never would have seen it. It was sort of the impetus for us both to move on. As hitty as that might sound, it was a shake-up in our otherwise completely humdrum stable life. And it ended up working out for the best. But it ducking sucked for a long time. That spark isn't permanent with new relationships. That's why so many people end up getting bored and marriage is considered hard. The important thing is finding a rest/o you enjoy being around and having fun with, a best friend. That way when the spark fades you're not stuck with a starfish who sits on the couch and eats Cheetos all day. Marry your best friend, not a girl you have the hots for. If you expect to find a relationship where the spark never fades, you'll be very disappointed. The spark leaves, even when you have been dating for more than a year. But the fun doesn't end. It just isn't entirely XL anymore. Friend of mine bought a house in a small town with his new wife. And he continued to commute 1 hour each way to work in our city. She worked part-time in the small town. Around the 10-month mark of their marriage she cheated on him with a mechanic in that small town. That was 5 years ago. And she's still with the mechanic, but he won't commit lol. Geez. I wonder why. Edit. Some of you apparently thought this was a serious question. Spoiler alert, it was sarcasm. Guess I should have put the /s. Maybe she likes dogs, and he likes cats. When I got home from Afghanistan, my wife at the time admitted that she had sex with 23 guys while I was gone. Needless to say, our marriage ended real quick. I don't think she understood the directions of 23 and me. Enjoy the gold. My ex-wife and I lasted about 7 years. But her first marriage ended pretty much right at the year mark. They were both 19. She got pregnant. They got married and tried to make their life work on $8/HR income. With her as a stay-at-home mom with no money, no car, and no friends in the same place in life she was. Day in and day out stress drove them apart. Same for me and my wife. In our first 2 years of living together I was making about 9-10 hours and she didn't work. I was always broke and was financially retarded. One day we talked it over and I decided to just give my entire paycheck to her and she would pay bills and budget my lunches and everything. All of a sudden we were on our way out of her mom's house and into an apartment with cable and internet and a car and cell phones. She freaking rocked at budgeting. Been together 9 years now. Edit. My top comment isn't a peen joke. Yay. Edit 1mo again. You guys have really made my friggin' day. Thank you for all the kind words and compliments to my wife. She needs it. Since usually the only reaction we get is why doesn't she work? Stay awesome Reddit. You guys rock. And to the newlyweds. Write down everything you spend. Everything. At the end of the week you can see what you've spent the most money on and can make adjustments. Your shopping list should be a everything I spend money on list that includes bills, consumables as well as food, along with a total that should not equal to more than you make. Don't splurge what you have left just because it's there. But also don't be afraid to take your spouse on a date with it. Good luck. And no, you can't have my wife. That's badass. I hope you have told her how you feel, because I'm sure she would love to hear it. Shouldn't have ever walked down the aisle in the first place. But abusive relationship stuck with your head. Thinking back now about the cold feet I had, and realize that they were warning bells. Not cold feet. Final straw was cheating on me. Hurt like hell, but I'm ultimately thankful, because that woke me the duck up. And then I holy hit. All those times he hit me or choked me, yay. That's pretty ducked up too. The mental game abusers play can seriously mess with your perception of reality. My sister was in an abusive, physically and emotionally, relationship and would have married him if it wasn't for him putting myself in danger. She had a low self-esteem because of him, and ended up caring more about her family's well-being than her own. 80% of why she stayed is because she felt sorry for him. He was cunning, and every time it came close to a breakup, he would readily admit he suffered with bipolar disease and was willing to get help. He would always refuse to take his meds. but promised he would start when things got bad and then find a reason to feel good again and not need them. She had this mentality of, well, if I'm not there to support him through this, then who will be? I'm still disgusted by how it took being in a bad situation for her to finally leave. But in some ways, I'm grateful, because I honestly truly believe she would have been murdered otherwise. Bipolar disease. As someone with bipolar disorder, don't duck and trust anyone who's willing to say I don't need my meds. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.